With every episode of the Broadcasters Podcast, I think I get lucky. We were just basically stepping up the totem pole of show business of all the areas of music, movies, TV, and radio. And we've reached another higher rung on that level because we're getting to talk. I get the opportunity, the privilege of talking to a legendary acting teacher and co-founder of the Edgemar Center for the Arts and the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory, legendary acting coach, Michelle Danner. Michelle, thanks for being on with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I'm so glad that I got a chance to get this connection together. So you're a legendary acting teacher. Let me just give a quick bio to give a little context to the listeners. And now you are now becoming a well-established, successful feature film director. You just completed a film called Bad Impulse, a psychological thriller about family secrets and modern technology. Stars include Sonya Walger, you might remember from the ABC's Lost, Grant Bowler from Sci-Fi's Defiance, and Paul Sorvino, obviously legendary actor in his own mind. How he doesn't have an Oscar on his mantle, it's beyond me. And you're now going to shoot a movie called The Runner, an action thriller and a true life coming of age story about a troubled teenager forced to go undercover to expose a drug kingpin. If it makes the movies, I'm going to buy a ticket. So first off, before we get into what you've been doing in your movie works as a director, I want to go and talk about your work as an acting teacher. You now oversee the faculty of the LA Acting Conservatory, and this is the roster of students you've had on board. This says everything, and you have an impressive alumni roster that you've had. You're including students that have included Christian Slater, Salma Hayek, Gerard Butler, Seth MacFarlane, Penelope Cruz, Chris Rock, Gabrielle Union, and Zoe Deschanel. Now, I just gave the roster of the many students that have gone on to great careers as a part of being of your acting conservatory. Talk to me about the reputation that you've been able to build behind the success rate from your talented alumni.
I have been lucky enough to do in life what my passion is, which is I'm very, very passionate about the craft of acting. And throughout the years, I have had, many people respond to wanting to do the work on a high level. I was lucky enough that I was trained by iconic teachers such as, they were legendary. That was very kind of you to introduce me as legendary. But, I worked with Stella Adler, and I studied with Uta Hagen, and a slew of other incredible teachers in New York City, starting when I was, early, a teenager. And I continue to study to this day. I'm a constant, eternal student of life. So, I just feel lucky that I've been able to put the work out there in a consistent way. And then people have responded, and I have the chance to work with some fantastic artists. In fact, I'm going to do a play next year, and we've begun to get together and do a reading and a rehearsing with Anne Archer.
Wow.
Yes, we're doing a one-woman ticket to the circus. Basically, Norris Church, the wife of Norman Mailer, and it's about her life with him. And so it's a slice of history that has to do with literature. It has to do with politics, and it's absolutely fascinating. So I'm very, it's not my first collaboration with Anne, actually. I worked with her in another play called Jane Fonda in the Court of Public Opinion. And I never know. I wake up and sometimes I get calls and I'm going to work on this movie or this project, this TV show, this Broadway show. So I never quite know what's, every week is a surprise. But I'll tell you that I'm lucky enough to work with some pretty extraordinary, talented folks.
And honestly, when you have that connection from coast to coast, working Broadway-style plays from Los Angeles and being able to put that connection and having the spirit of it, and also just working with such great talent like Anne Archer, I totally agree. Now, I know everybody asks about this, but I'm going to have to ask about it. And let me just go through a little bit of context for our listeners. Now, you are said to use an eclectic approach when it comes to the acting skills and technique called the Golden Box. It allows actors the freedom to employ a wide variety of techniques. You said, quote, "It is important to use your acting instrument in different ways of improvisation, vocal work, movement, and music." Actors always need to surround themselves in a world of creativity, and each actor is unique, and so it's important when they script, analyze, and build a character, whether it be for film, TV, or stage, that they find constant choices that specifically inspire them and work for them. End quote. How do you view with the current Hollywood environment, how it was for your students? Because here's the thing. I want to talk about the methodology of the golden box, but I have to ask this first. Are there still a lot of creative opportunities out there, given the cultural, social, corporate obstacles that still stand in the way of Hollywood? Because, I mean, that's what you're talking about, is to have that freedom to be creative, but then there are obstacles that get in that way.
Well, I mean, are you talking about how many opportunities there are?
Right, and the fact of the matter is, there's just certain things where the social culture is changing. About we need a diverse character to be in this role. We need somebody. There has to be certain boxes that have to be checked for social diversity, inclusivity, things like that. And then in politics, in the corporate culture, you have a lot of movies that are being rebooted or being remade or just being retooled. So how can you trying to instruct and instill in your students to be creative when they're going to have some projects that might not give them that creativity?
Right. Well, I'm a very big proponent of inspiring students that work with me to take the bull by the horn and creating their own projects. I just finished teaching a workshop in Hawaii, in Honolulu this past weekend, to a wonderful group of Hawaiian actors. And I do an exercise, a specific exercise that is geared to them to, start to think about writing autobiographically, and that writing can become a screenplay, can become a short, can become a novel, can become a one-woman show, a one-man show, a play. And, to take charge, to be proactive. And then I talked about period shows, and this actress said, well, it's very difficult. We don't get cast in period shows. Well, I said, the tide is changing. I mean, if you look at, the latest period shows, I was just watching Medici, and that has some very interesting multi-cultural casting. I think that there is a formula. There is some sort of a hierarchy. If you haven't done, let's say, if you're working on television and you haven't done a certain amount of, smaller parts or guest leads, it depends what the part is. I mean, everybody has a different karma. Everybody has a different path to follow. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. I always tell people that to me, it's like we have a Ferris wheel here in Santa Monica on the on the ocean, and the Ferris wheel always stops for everybody. Opportunity knocks on everyone's door. It's what you do when it knocks on your door. Are you able to step up to the plate and deliver what you need to deliver? And if it's hard to find the opportunities, if it's hard to find those projects where you're going to put your hat in the ring, then there's so many stories, inspiring stories of actors that have written it for themselves. Go back all the way back to Stallone and Rocky, Van Diesel. I mean, there's like a lot of inspiring examples, such as Kristen Wiig with Bridesmaids, or Amy Schumer with Trainwreck. So that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. You have to think about, what's a great character that I could play, that I would be riveting in, and find a way to create that project.
And for me, I'm not trying to say anything at all about the fact that I don't want diversity on my screen. I do. But I just want the right performers to be there. And I don't want it to be where it's almost some kind of an affirmative action kind of feel to it, where because of some construct that there's some kind of requirement. And so that's my whole fact of the matter, is that I want projects to be going to the right performers. And it's not because of any particular thing that they have that they've done. But of course, there's going to be some of that. I mean, in Hollywood and on stage anyway, there's just going to be part of that, of the hierarchy. People are going to do that. But for the most part, I want those opportunities to be open. That's what's most important. So let's talk about the golden box. I know you've been asked about this many times. And again, I don't get a chance to talk to many acting coaches and really talk about acting in general. So this was just fascinating to me. So the Golden Box, it ultimately shows that artists can draw upon different acting techniques and form an individual toolbox of their own. Now, you studied the teachings of some legendary acting coaches, and just the name is a who's who, like Stella Adler, who developed her own method built on the teaching of method acting from legends like Konstantin Stanislavski and Lee Strasberg. I remember from Hyman Roth, Godfather Part 2. That's how I remember. And the story about him and Al Pacino drawing Strasberg to go ahead and be a part of that movie, which really just one of my favorite characters of a lot of movies altogether. One of my favorite movies in general. But now, Stella's technique, your technique actually differs from Strasberg's, in that it emphasizes imagination in addition to emotional recall. You've explained that, quote, the camera is like a dangerous lover. Love that metaphor. You have to risk letting it capture the most secret parts of you, end quote. Now, how do you isolate, Michelle, the performers that are ultimately able to wear all levels of emotions on their sleeve?
Yes. Well, I am a great believer. For instance, I'm prepping right now for a feature film that I'm going to shoot in 5 weeks called The Runner. And I'm working with my lead actor. And every day we're touching base. We're either, we're going to rehearse very intensely. I believe in building the life of the character. Once you understand their DNA, once you understand their soul, their spirit, how they operate on every level, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, then you own that character. You understand their pathology, you understand their dark side, and you can let the circumstances affect you, and you can play within those circumstances. I try and, have a very safe environment for my actors where they can risk things, and I'm a great believer in not trying to get it right. In the messiness, that's where you find the true art.
That's a great,
in the messiness.
That's it. I can imagine that's the best way to get it, because some of the takes you would see of some particular scenes that become so dramatically good is that they can't be perfectly contrived. It has to come naturally. So you take those takes, and then one of those takes is going to come out with gold. One of the actors that you're talking about, that you're actually featuring in that movie, The Runner, that you just mentioned, is named Edward Filipinat. I might have said the name wrong.
Yes, exactly. You said it right. Yes, you said it right.
God, there we go. I've done a little bit of schooling. Now, he was asked in a recent publication about the audition process, and he said this, quote, the audition process was a very unnatural one. Every now and then, you, Michelle, he said you would drop in to supervise and give notes. She happened to be there on my first day for my first performance piece. It was nerve-wracking, but eventually, after a few months, she pulled me aside and said that I had something special. She'd asked if I'd be interested in meeting with her the following week. When we met, she pitched me the idea of a script. That's The Runner. And unknowingly, I was auditioning for her for 3 months. Now, talk to me about Edward right there and the evolution of how you've been able to make it from coaching to casting to directing.
Well, directing is, the ultimate. You get to have your vision be fulfilled. You get to sign the canvas. So I love actors. I love process. I love to coach actors, but I also love to paint. And I love to tell stories. At heart, we're all storytellers. And this particular story has a lot of meaning for me because late at night, I watched a news report that moved me to the core, and I immediately put pen to paper and wrote 3 pages of a treatment that later on I sent to this writer that is actually the writer, Jason Chase Terrell of Bad Impulse, wonderful writer, and I said, could you please write the screenplay for me? And he did. He wrote a wonderful screenplay. And then it turned out that the story of the screenplay, it's not exactly the story, but it's inspired by it. And yes, I saw this extraordinary talent that Edouard has. I absolutely saw it one night. We held classes in the Edgemar Center for the Arts in Santa Monica. And one night the lights went out. It was basically the lights of the whole block. Mm-hmm. And Edouard performed the scene, and everybody held like a little flashlight through their cell phone to have light. And, it was like he gave me chills. And I thought from the very beginning when I met him, I said he would make a perfect Aiden, which is the lead character in this movie, The Runner. And yes, I did approach him. It's funny, he said that unbeknownst to him, he was auditioning for me for months. He's probably right. But I really thought that he would make an excellent, I couldn't think of anybody else that would be better. Of course, I could have held auditions and seen, hundreds of actors, but I really felt very strongly. I think that if I wasn't interested in directing, I would be a good casting director. I have a very good eye for what I feel.
Well, it makes
really
sense.
Works.
It makes sense that you'll be able to go and make this transition, because just from coaching it all together, you get to see people, especially if there are some students you think you could bring into the fray and do that. And the kind of movie you're talking about with The Runner, Edward's going to have to go through a lot of different emotions when it could be a very vulnerable spot, being a troubled teenager, being reckless and a reckless youth, and having to find his way and really having to come of age in a pretty fast amount of time if he's going to go ahead and expose this drug kingpin and be a part of that underground environment, and having to kind of play ball to be able to go ahead and expose this person.
I'll tell you that he's doing an enormous amount of research.
Yeah.
And then we're working and talking every day, and it's seeping into him. I can't wait for us to be on set and to do what you would just asked, which is let actors risk, let him feel safe enough that he can truly risk it, and give a performance that can affect people. I mean, a lot of our demographic is going to be, young people, teenagers, and there's something very powerful in the message of this movie that has to do with our children falling through the cracks, being sacrificial lambs, and in addiction and drugs, which, we have to keep telling these stories because they're important stories to tell.
Absolutely. Now, there's a quote that I got. There's a story that you wrote for Backstage.com. The one thing you should know before auditioning for TV. I want to take one quote that I thought was just, this should be put up on a wall, and I'm imagining this is something you must say in the acting classes or among your students. Quote, "You can be the best actor in the world and bring truth to the scene you're performing in an audition. But if you don't understand the material you're playing, and if you don't enter the specific world the story is set in, you'll be at a loss and do yourself a disservice." End quote. Now, while there are many character actors doing very well on camera, and I can't ever pick who they are, but I can tell you that there are certain people I know I love, and if they're in it, I'm usually going to catch whichever movie or whichever featured TV show, whatever it might be they're in, something on Netflix, whatever it might be. But here's my question. I feel like there's a lack of star power that can really draw the box office, that will really get people, mass audiences come in to watch, or to get Oscar considerations, consistently, because we used to see people that would always get a new movie out, and that would be an instant Oscar consideration. We don't see the Meryl Streeps or the Jack Nicholsons or the types like that anymore. So what say you about that? About this lack of star power? Because I don't think there's enough stars that are bankable box office, that the people that will go ahead and draw people to come to the movies to see them just for the one star on the marquee, that star.
And so you feel that there's a lack of that?
Right, because, I just feel like when you look at certain movies, they're going back a little bit to the well. When I see certain movies that I'm seeing now, Will Smith puts out Gemini Man, and you think as an anchor for a movie like that, it did not do well. I just think that we're not seeing people that are just consistently... Leonardo DiCaprio might not be putting out a movie every year, or Julia Roberts not be putting out a movie every year. Some of the stars that are out there are not putting as much, and who's making really big movies? It's the superhero movies. We might see people there, but that's a cast of characters, but it's not a single person that's actually bringing it on. Tom Hanks can only do so many movies every year and continue to look out and be strong. But again, where's the next person coming in to take that place? Actor or actress?
Well, I think that there's always... The thing is that this new generation of actors and this generation that exists will never top, the generation of Rita Hayworth and Betty Davis and Clark Gable and all those extraordinary actors that we had, and somebody on the top of my tongue that I did in a movie with Elizabeth Taylor, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Why am I Paul Newman.
Oh.
Those legendary actors. So we don't have, because it's a different generation. It's a different generation. So who is going to be the talent, the raw talent, the next James Dean that will immerse? We don't know. Like, for instance, Edouard, I actually hate to say this because I only want to say he could be the next, he's a handsome kid but enormously talented. But, I think that every generation will never be able to go back to this era of those big movie stars. But we will just have to accept the talent that each generation has to bring to us.
Variety in the stars that are getting movies out there that they can find from whichever stories want to be told, period pieces, adapted, screenplays or stories or books, whatever it might be. But I just noticed, I guess there's just certain stars that have to get being tapped into for certain roles. I mean, Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hanks, and just some of the types that are out there are still getting roles. But it's like, where's the newer stars that come in that can also do the same thing? I mean, Denzel Washington can only do so many roles. I mean, you're looking at The Irishman that's going to get put out through Netflix, and there might be considerations for that, but now we have de-aging technology, and I talked about that on a previous show. These kind of things that are being done so that the actors that we had that would really give us, that was the reason to go. And I just feel like some of the stars that we have now, they want to go to Netflix, do their own passion projects. But then the next crop of actors that are not going to do that. They want to get on the big screen, hungry for the chance to be the star vehicle. I'm looking for those people. And I just don't see that many of them these days. Maybe we're just looking for the next diamond in the rough.
I mean, I totally hear you. And although I just finished watching Euphoria on HBO, and I think some of those pearls are in those young actors. I don't know if you've watched that series.
I have not yet, no.
And there's a wonderful actor, I can't remember his name, he's in a movie called Loose that came out, I believe, of Sundance this year. Oh. And he's pretty extraordinary. I think that, like I said, I'll just say that I think it's never going to be, the roster of these incredible stars. It'll be a different thing. Every generation will carry something different. So we'll just have to go back and binge our old movies. We'll have to go on a Meryl Streep festival or go on a Daniel Day-Lewis festival who says he's not making another movie. Right. If we want to watch those extraordinary actors, in terms of what's coming, I don't know, but I want to stay positive. That especially because, this is the golden age of television shows, as we know. Right. Not television, because when I think of television, I think of reality shows. But when I think of, television shows, I think of all this, I think of Ozark and Handmaid's Tale and The Bodyguard and all these great shows that not only are happening in the United States, but all over the world.
Oh, in the UK, they're just letting them out, like just in droves. They're so great.
Yeah, and when you were thinking of TV shows before, like 10 years ago, you didn't think of good writing. You thought of mediocre writing. And now everybody's rallied together, and all these, strong writers and these, very well-known actors, these stars, are doing television shows. Everybody has got one.
And that was before that's before the streaming services really became big, because we saw who was coming in, and big stars that said, "Oh, I can do a TV show." Once the episode counts started becoming shortened down to 10 and 13 episodes. Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody studied the formula on how to do a TV show, and some are better than others. Some are absolutely brilliant, but I think that this new generation, this new roster of actors will come down the pikes, and they will impress us tremendously.
And don't get me wrong, wonderful actors out there. I'm going to talk about one right now. So first of all, I want to bring up Josh Pais. I don't know if I said that name right or wrong, but I've seen him in so many movies. So he's in Rounders, Scream 3, Ray Donovan, one of my favorite shows. I love that show. He plays Arthur Fleck's boss in the new Joker movie. I don't know if you had a chance to see that yet. Have you seen it?
I have seen the Joker. What's the name of the actor?
Josh Pais, Pais.
Uh-huh.
You can't miss the face. When you see him, he's just a prick on camera. He's so good at it. He's a heel. And I think he does a great job in everything he does. Well, he played Arthur Fleck's boss in the movie Joker, which I saw as well. I don't know about you. I think it might have been the best movie of the year. Joaquin Phoenix as a method actor. First of all, talk to me. What do you think about him being able to consume that role? A movie that you think some people at first glance, this is a superhero villain. But this movie had so much heart and so much emotion, and you really felt, so many different things about the character. But then you got to see the rage and the complete transformation of this character from silence to rage.
Well, I think Joaquin Phoenix, will win an Oscar for this performance.
Yeah.
It should really be the actor that did Rocket Man that should win it.
Oh, Edgerton, yeah.
Had it not been for this performance, I think he will walk away with the Oscar. I don't think there's going to be anything else that's going to top this performance.
Yeah, because the problem is it was too early in the year, too. And then you have Rami Malek winning last year, and yeah, it would be kind of just a repeat. I could totally see that. But I did enjoy Rocket Man.
I think that this is the performance that's going to win. I may be wrong, I'm not always right, but I think after having seen it, what he brought to it on so many levels is, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, we know that Joaquin Phoenix is someone that goes deep into his psyche.
Yep.
And he delivered big time. In terms of the actor Josh Pais, he's a wonderful actor. He's a great actor.
And I want to ask about this real quick, because here's why I brought him up. Now, as he was doing the movie Joker, Joaquin Phoenix told him, and this is what he was quoted by a Hollywood Reporter. He says, "I loved your tape. I just want to make sure you're not an asshole, because one person on set can really ruin the whole vibe of the thing." Joaquin told Todd Phillips, the director, "I don't care who you cast. Just make sure everybody is a really good actor and no assholes." End quote. So I guess I passed the test, Josh says. Now, you teach the art of method acting. So talk to me about the importance of actors contributing to the vibe of the set as much as the delivery of the script.
Well, I think it's everything. To act is to, open up your soul. It takes a lot of courage to act. And if you're on set and you're doing a scene with an asshole, with somebody who's not generous, right, somebody who's not kind, somebody who brings their fear and their tension to the work and makes people shut down, and it creates tension on the set. Yeah. And tension is not conducive to doing your best work. Unfortunately, as we know, there's a lot of assholes in this world, and there's a lot of them in showbiz. So as much as possible, the people that are putting it together, director, producers, right now we're putting together a group of people that are going to collaborate and become a family for a certain amount of time. You want to, find the best energies that you can find. There's a lot of actors out there. There may not be, like you said, a lot of, great stars, right, but there are a lot of actors. And if people start to consistently get a reputation that they're difficult to work with, then it's gonna get around. It'll catch up with those people. And it's not just about, professional things like being on time and, because I know actors that are on time and are very well prepared, but they have a certain energy and they make other people not feel good about themselves. And it's not right. It's the most ungenerous thing that you can do. But not only the people that are in front of the camera, not only the actors, but the crew. Everybody that's, it takes a lot of people to make a movie or a show. And so there are people that are behind the camera that also deserve that respect and that consideration. So, listen, I've worked with lots of actors, some really wonderful, wonderful ones, and that I always call, I have them on my speed dial. And then there's some other actors that I will not work with again, even though they're very good actors.
Exactly. And for me, I can just think of the fact of, I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but when I think about that, I think, first of all, when it comes to actors, I feel like Christian Bale has gotten a little bit of that bad rap because they released that clip of him on the set of Terminator just ripping at a lighting director for a part. And then I think of Tommy Wiseau, the guy that was the influence for the movie The Disaster Artist that James Franco portrayed so well. What a crazy movie. I just think about that there are certain people that just will take the life out of what can be a really great movie, and that's where the right directors, the right people that are going to be there to keep that momentum up, and really you can tell when people just have a good project that comes out there. Like for me, every time I see a Clint Eastwood movie directed by him, you can just tell. I always hear everybody has fun on the set. They have a good time. It's relaxed. Everybody just knows what they're doing. And those movies just come out so well every time. And it just amazes me. I'm looking forward to Richard Jewell. I think that's going to be another great movie. Once a year, he gives us a classic, and I think he just does great work. Now, The Guardian. I wanted to go into another subject. The Guardian recently wrote about this, quote, "Safe sex on set, the rise of intimacy coaches. In the wake of Me Too, scenes are being choreographed like fights or dances to set boundaries for actors. They state that the film and TV industries have been increasingly agonizing over people being groped in the workplace when consensual groping is part of the job in the last few years. And now it's rising to now the new job is being set on the sets, that of the intimacy coordinator. Have you had to include addressing issues that the hashtag Me Too movement and similar social cultural subjects? Have you had to deal with that right now, where students might need to deal with how they behave on a set and how they might have to coordinate and work with an intimacy coordinator or with actors and actresses that are very sensitive to certain things?
I have never had to broach any of this. It is a sensitive issue. I've had some nude scenes. There's nudity clauses that get talked about.
Yeah.
And signed way before the shoot. I always try to create, for me, when I'm directing, a safe environment for actors. So, I don't have, I haven't had any bad experiences, only good experiences where everybody's very respectful, and especially when you're doing something that, is very delicate like that. So thankfully, I've only had, some good stories to tell.
That's good. That's good to know. Now, I want to go and ask another thing. Forbes.com, they wrote an article titled "Superhero Movies Rule Hollywood Because We Ignore Everything Else." And I'm always really against what's going on here. But they wrote, quote, "Hollywood spent too much time and money on globally friendly 4-quadrant fantasy franchise blockbusters to the detriment of everything else. Contrary to popular belief, Hollywood still puts out original, adult skewing, or high concept movies into wide release every week. Couple that with a theatrical movie-going audience. Myself, I go at least every week, and I have a subscription to Regal Cinemas, so I can go to movies anytime I want, and I go as many times as long as there's a movie that I'm halfway interested in seeing. I spend my money at the movies. Now, people are craving familiar characters and familiar franchises above all else. And you have prestige filmmakers looking at the landscape and decrying all the superhero movies. So, what do you think about what the big screen and the streamers have to offer the aspiring actor in terms of potential projects? When you look at what we kind of talked about this before, but when they look at what's out there, what are the opportunities that you see, and what's the expectations you try to put in those students?
When they're going to
take a project. If they want to work a high concept project, they might have to sacrifice, a lot of money coming in for that, or getting well compensated. If it's more for the passion of the project than it is for the paycheck.
Yeah, I don't think that you can act for the paycheck. I think that it's like, when you see in the Olympics, the ice skaters skate for the gold medal. When they skate because they want to win the gold medal, they muscularize and they fall. When they skate because they're skating because they love skating, they win the gold medal. I don't think, now, sometimes an actor can have a paycheck, has to consider a paycheck.
Yeah.
If they have a family and somebody's asking them to go somewhere for a certain amount of money and it's not worth it, then somebody could turn it down for the paycheck. But
right.
I was watching today an interview with Ed Norton, who has a movie that he directed and he's in, and he asked all his friends to be in it, and it was his passion project. So he asked everybody to work for, very little.
Scale
and, I think people respond to those projects if they come from the heart. And, Ed Norton is another incredible artist, as we know. So I think that, you can't think about the money. And I do have some young actors that are very focused on how much money that they're going to make. And I always try to get them to turn the lens a little bit and see the other side of it, and talk about why, their personal why do they really want to act, what it means to them, how profound it would be for them to get the dream of acting, and not to worry so much about, what they're going to get paid.
The movie he's going to put out, Motherless Brooklyn, I've seen a few times the trailer. I'm fascinated by it. I think he's doing a good job just from what he has to do to put this role together, playing a character with Tourette syndrome. Sounds great. And also a good period piece. What a good roster of actresses and actors that he has in this movie. November 1st is the release. I'm looking forward to that. And it's amazing where I don't see him in that many movies, but man, he's done so many good movies in general, and I'm not sure where it comes from. But I mean, again, if you can take the risk and put yourself out there to put a project out that you can hope that will go for scale. And I've had directors on here talk about how they had to go ahead and, make some relationships to see, can we get this actor or actress that I know very well? I know him as a good friend of mine. Can you do this for me for scale? And, if hopefully you get that opportunity. And even for somebody for this kind of a project and the budget he must have gotten to do this, it's really great. And you'll know it's something that's from the heart. It's something that he put everything into. And that also, I like when I see actors that become directors or producers that are able to add more to the mix. And that, I think that's the other thing too, is that some of the actors that we have, they don't want to just stay out there as the box office, where, like a Mark Wahlberg or Matt Damon, they want to direct, or they want to produce, or Ben Affleck. They want to go ahead and be behind the camera or be a part of the screenplay. And so it's
the next step to challenging yourself. And I think Ed Norton, it's very challenging to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, and, to do different aspects of putting it together. It's a huge challenge.
And I think that's
it's the natural progression,
right? And I think that's the new age of the performers we have now, is that we have multitaskers. They do not want to be reliant upon their craft of being able to act. They want to be able to show that they have multiple skills, basically a Swiss Army knife, I always call it, of skills that you have, so you can work different parts of the set if you're necessarily needing to, so that you're showing more value than just your talent of acting or singing or what have you.
I agree. I absolutely 100% agree.
Now, when you talk to the aspiring actors looking to make the trip to Hollywood, if they're going to come to your acting conservatory and they're going to work with you, if they consider coming to your acting school, what can they expect? What should they be prepared for, so that they're going to make sure that they can actually make it to the course and be able to succeed and learn your method?
They're going to expect that they need to work hard and they need to commit 150%. And the classes are challenging. The community of actors is passionate. And they're really going to be asked to go past what's comfortable. And because that's how they're going to grow. And so many of our actors have had incredible growth experiences working at our studio, taking the conservatory programs, taking individual classes, and they go out in the world, they work. As a matter of fact, I've had several emails just today from actors that I work with that booked some big movies, and they said that they reread their notes that they took in class, and it helped them so much. It always makes me so happy. It warms my heart when somebody anywhere in the world will say that, they used the tools.
Michelle, you've given me so much knowledge here. I get to understand so much more about just the wonderful world of being an acting teacher, and just learning about, getting inside the minds of the actors, the performers that are doing great movie on the screen, and what I get to go enjoy each and every Friday night. Because for me, as a movie buff, I can't go to a movie. I feel wrong if I'm not in a movie theater with popcorn and a drink on Friday nights. I have at the last showing as well. I don't like going when everybody else is there. I want a nice intimate spot at the theater. I want to be able to watch the movie opening night. That's my deal of how I do things. So I want to go and see about the movies you're actually working on, because I see so much you're working on. Besides the fact that you have the Acting Conservatory, you have the new film Bad Impulse. Tell me again where we can go and see the movie. Is it already out and released?
So Bad Impulse right now is being shown in festivals. We've actually won 2 awards, which we're very excited about, one in New York and one in London. Right. And it will be released next year. It's a psychological thriller with some horror and some supernatural. And like you said, it has Paul Sorvino in it, and Sonya Walger, and Grant Bowler. And, I hear that people are on the edge of their seats, that it really scares them, which made me, every time I hear somebody say, oh, it scared me so much. It's like The Shining. That made me so happy. Wow. So, so if people like that genre, they're going to, they're going to be on the edge of their seats. Now, so that's one movie that...
And The Runner, has it already started principal photography or no?
The Runner's starting principal photography in about 5 weeks.
All right.
So we're excited about that, and we're in the casting process as we speak.
Directing a one-person play with Ann Archer, you're doing Bonnie Culver's Norris, based on the memoirs of widow of writer Norman Mailer. Broadway, film festivals, acting coaching, and directing films. I don't even know how you had the time for it.
Well, I have 2 kids. You didn't mention my biggest production. I have 2 boys, 2 kids that keep me quite busy. But, it's good that they see their mom pursuing her dreams. And,
yeah.
I have to pursue creativity. I mean, I have to, because it's like the water that you drink. It's important to let yourself, follow what's in your heart. But yeah, I'm really excited about making a movie. I have 1 movie that's coming out, and a play, because I'm superly passionate about the theater. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I was talking to a friend today, and she said, "Oh my God, don't you get overwhelmed?" And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, we all get overwhelmed. But just put one foot in front of the other, and one day at a time, and it all comes together.
Fantastic. Michelle Danner, again, thank you so much for being on the Broadcasters Podcast. I'm really grateful to go and have you join us on. And I see that also for everyone, so everything we're looking to find out what you're working on, and to find more about what you're working on and what you're doing, MichelleDanner.com. Again, 2 L's and DANNER.com. Michelle, thank you again for being on. I'm so happy to have you on.
That was great questions. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.